guys, in this video I want to show you how I make some Paddington Bear themed cookies. So I'm going to make a cake that goes with this in the next video. I've made ginger biscuits for this, so what I'm going to do is put the link below, or not the link, I'm going to put the recipe below this video for you guys. I'm starting with some blue fondant. Now it's pre-dyed is this one. I want to roll it fairly thin and I'm going to try texture it a bit for my Paddington coat. Now I've used a Christmas jumper sweater or a jumper sweater. Again, I'll find which one I've used and I'll link it below so you know which cutter. The cookie itself's already made for this. Now I had to change the shape of it just a little bit because it wasn't quite the right shape for Paddington's coat. So I've cut a little bit off the bottom of the sleeves and kind of off the side of the sleeves to sharpen up the shoulders a little bit. I've put a little bit of royal icing on just so that the fondant will stick. I've used the Massa fondant for this one, but you can use whichever one you want. I'm going to put a line up the middle just with a Dresden tool, so it's a plain line. And then I'm going to put a little stitching line up the side. So I've got a little wheelie tool thing that puts the stitching in for me. And then I want like a kind of carrot shape that's going to go on for the hood. So the point goes towards the middle line and then the thicker bit goes towards the outside edge, and then any extra you're just going to cut off. And of course you can decorate your cookies in royal icing, but I find fondant a little bit easier to work with, but you will need to make sure you go fairly thin, otherwise there's going to be a bit much fondant on your cookie. So let's put some little creases in around the arms, and then let's cut some little strips. So go really thin now with these next ones. You can texture it again like we did with the other one. And I'm cutting two little rectangles, just sticking them on. I'm just lifting the hood up a little bit so I can get them just under that hood. And let's put some more stitching lines on there. So we want some more rectangles or even squares. And these are going to go on for the pockets. So I've rubbed out a lot of the texture really, just when I've been working with it. But you can still see a little bit of texture on there. So I've got some more rectangles. These are just going to go around the cuff. And then we're going to put the stitching lines on the end of these sleeves, on the pockets, and along the edge of the hood as well. So it still looks a bit boring, so we need to add Paddington's buttons, and these are what are going to make it look a bit more like Paddington's coat really. So we've got two small balls that were just pressed on each of those little rectangles that are on the sleeves for buttons for the sleeves, and then for the little toggles, I think, are they called toggles, these kind of button? I think I used to have a duffel coat with toggles on like this when I was a kid. But you're going to roll them fairly thin, or kind of oval-ish, and then you're going to change the shape when you put an indentation across the middle. So I'm going to go a little bit lighter now with the brown. So I've added some white to the brown that I think it was teddy bear brown I was using on the buttons. I'm just going to twist it together, so roll it nice and thin, twist it together, and this is going to go between those little toggles or buttons. You guys can let me know in the comments below what they're properly called. So you're going to do the same on both. And then I'm just going to add a little bit of shading. So I've got some black edible powder and I've diluted it quite a lot. Now I'm using dipping solution, which is like a food grade alcohol. It does evaporate, so it doesn't stay on the cookie, doesn't the alcohol, but you can use lemon essence, clear alcohol. You can use water, but the powders don't dilute as well with water. They kind of go a bit sort of clumpy rather than giving you smooth paint. And then I'm just adding a little bit of dry white dust just to anywhere that I want to highlight. So next one is going to be our marmalade cookie, because Paddington likes marmalade. So we're going to go for orange fondant, and we're going to use the cookie cutter that we used for the cookie. So this time it was a mason jar cookie cutter that I used on this one. And you're not going to need the top bit on there, so you can cut the top of the orange off. We're going to stick it to the cookie with royal icing, and then we're going to use the cookie cutter again, but we only need the top bit to just create a little white bit for the top. Keep your fondant, your white fondant, really nice and thin, and you can cut off like a big triangle. It doesn't matter if it's not exactly a triangle shape. What we're going to do is we're going to crease it up a little bit, and it's going to look like a piece of fabric that's sort of draped over the top of the marmalade lid. And you can go bigger or smaller depending how much of the marmalade jar you want to cover up. And then I want a little rectangle of white for like the sticker, or the label I should say, the label on the marmalade jar. This time I've got the white, not white, it's not white at all, it's orange powder. And also white as well. The orange is going to give us darker areas and the white is going to give us highlights, so the shiny bits that we want on the jar. I thought I'd add some orange sprinkles. So these orange coloured sprinkles I've got chocolate in the middle. I just thought it made it look like there's a bit of texture, a bit of something on there. This time I'm using a red food powder mixed with the clear alcohol or dipping solution. And we're just going to paint a little pattern on there. I've forgotten what's it called, this pattern, when it's like a checked kind of effect. I'm going to use some of that leftover light brown so it looks like a bit of string or a rubber band that's kind of tied the fabric onto the top of the jar. And then I'm just going to use my edible pens to create a little picture on the label. So it might be that you want to put a name on there rather than a picture, but I thought if I drew little oranges with orange leaves, it makes it a little bit more obvious that it's marmalade in the jar. I don't like marmalade, but I will like the cookie. So I thought they're both quite in keeping with the theme, but also it would be quite nice to have little paws, little bear paws. So this time I'm using plunger cutters. I used the same cutter for the cookie as well. So the cookie's a little bit kind of 3D for these ones. Can you see that when I use this cutter, when you press in, if you press the plunger down, it gives you like a 3D effect around the pads of the paws, which I thought looked quite nice. So if you don't want to do any decorating further than this, you could just leave it like that. But what I'm going to do is colour in the pads. So I'm using sort of the 3D bit, the bit that's sticking up, and I'm just colouring in. So with my pen, I'm drawing like an outside line or an edge, and then I'm just using a bit of water on my brush to kind of drag that colour inwards so it's a bit darker along the outer edge and it gets paler as it comes inwards towards the middle. And if you don't have the edible pens, it's fine, don't worry, you can do it with powders. So you can also mix a brown powder with the dipping solution and you can paint it on if you prefer. Or you could even use the powder dry. So on this one, I was just having a bit of a play around really to see what it looks like. So it's still got that brown pen edge on this one. And then I wanted to play around with different shades of brown. So I've got like a milk chocolate one and then a dark chocolate brown. And I'm just putting it on there. This way was a little bit messier than the pen, but go for whichever one you prefer, guys. And I'm just having another play around now for if we were to do another marmalade jar and have the label different with the name. What I've done is just imprint the name and then I've coloured it in. So I used the Sweet Stamps letters on this. What I'm going to do is put links below, guys, so you can see which set I use. And you might also find that, you know, if you do want to add colour and paint to the marmalade jar, it might be easier than when the first one I added the white bit to the top first and then had to lift it to paint. So this time, the second one round, I've done the painting first and then added the white bit of the lid. Did make it a little bit less messy for me this way. And obviously you could do as many of these as you like. And if you're working on lots of these in one go, guys, I would get them all to the same step so you don't have to do one fully from start to finish, then start the next one. You could get the orange bit on each one first, then do the painting on each one before you move on to the next step, etc. The jam jars were a little bit quicker than the jacket, Paddington's jacket, and the paws were the really quick, easy ones to make. So if you're doing a collection of them, like what I have done, you might find that you end up doing a lot more paws because it's quicker, but the other ones still are nice to tie in with the theme. So I hope you enjoyed this video, guys. I am making a Paddington face cake, so I'm going to film that next and I'm going to put that online shortly as well so you can see how it matches nicely with these cookies. If you're enjoying this video, guys, don't forget to like and subscribe to our channel where you can see new videos weekly. Bye! If you liked the video, be sure to hit the thumbs up button and leave me a comment below. You can see more of my tutorials by clicking on the images on screen now. If you haven't already, make sure you click the subscribe button to stay up to date with my future tutorials. There are also links in the description box below where you can find me on Facebook, Instagram and more.